Hello, my name is Noreen Heavlin, and I'm with the Unitarian Universalist Co-Site community. So titles are something that Bill and I take very seriously. Before choosing a final title, we consider the potential outreach and its likely interpretations. So I told Bill that I was thinking of calling my homily Cross-Pollinization as a paradigm shift for Unitarian Universalists. And he gave me a wry smile, yet remained silent, which is kind of not like him. "What's the smile about?" I asked him. He said, "Well, most people would basically associate sex with cross-pollinization. And we UUs are already out there far enough for most mainstream religions. Garrison Keillor would have a field day with that title if Prairie Home Companion was still in existence. Safer to use the word interdependence. Personally, I like the values found in UUA's Article 2, which centers on love and places interdependence right smack in the middle of equity, generosity, justice, pluralism, and transformation. But here's the problem, though. These values are vaguely defined, and perhaps on purpose. Some people may only understand interdependence in the context of the seventh principle, which emphasizes the interconnectedness of all living things. In the same way, pluralism may only mean promoting racial diversity, LGBTQ+ within our congregation to some, while others may interpret it to mean accepting a wide range of wisdom from many religions and earth-based traditions. So interdependence wasn't quite what I was after. In a metaphorical sense, cross-pollination refers to the exchange and blending of various viewpoints, ideas, and knowledge, which fosters greater creativity, innovation, and in this way, resilience. Similar to how bees spread pollen from one plant to another, it's about taking inspiration from various sources and experiences to create something new, fresh, and vibrant. And I firmly believe that is what Unitarian Universalist congregations need now more than ever. We need more cross-pollination between congregations, not less. The pandemic forced many congregations to reach out for help. And in some cases, we depended on one another for our very survival. But let's be clear. The idea of inter-congregational collaboration, freely sharing ideas, helping each other out, cross-pollinating, it doesn't come naturally to Unitarian Universalists. We are structured historically so that each congregation lives on its own island with its own tribe, and many people think that is a strength, and in some sense it is. There's more stickiness. Many religious traditions follow a central liturgy and calendar, and I'm not just talking about the Catholic Church. Many Christian denominations rely heavily on a liturgical calendar. The Lutherans, the Anglicans, and the Methodists, along with other faith traditions such as Judaism, Buddhism, and Hinduism, all rely on a liturgical calendar. And I'm going to be a religion translator now, if people don't know what a liturgical calendar is. But you're kind of told what to say, on any given day, on any given week. There's just the same thing that's covered in every single church and synagogue. How boring, right? We don't do that, and I think that's great. Yes, we Unitarian Universalists, we have a few unique rituals of our own, the flower and the water ceremonies, for instance, but really, there's just one ritual every Unitarian Universalist congregation employs, and that's lighting the chalice. That's it, folks. The rest is an open field, a playground for creative exploration. We can choose to follow touchstone themes or soul matters or none of the above. This freedom makes us more capable of responding from the pulpit to what's happening right now in the world, and that's a good thing. However, there is a clear disadvantage to reverting to the pattern of radical independence and self-reliance. Individuals and congregations can be stimulated and inspired by being exposed to diverse perspectives and ways of thinking, much like a flower benefits from receiving pollen from another flower. A field of a single crop, a monoculture, is more susceptible to disease and failure. Similarly, using only one way of thinking implicitly stifles creativity and growth. Cross-pollination adds diversity and fortifies the system as a whole. Now, during the pandemic, UU COSIDE found ourselves in a period of intense creativity, and we were fortunate to have a team of incredible creatives who saw us through a very difficult time. We had been a lay congregation for 5 years, and due to the stress of online delivery, a lot of ministers and congregations parted ways. I think you might remember in Redwood City, the older minister said, I'm out of here. So there was a lot of congregations that found themselves in a position of being lay-led after having ministers for a number of years. But you know what? UUCC, we were there both to offer and to receive support from UU San Mateo, UU Community of Lake County, UU Fellowships of Santa Cruz County and Redwood City, Live Oak UU Fellowship, and the UU Church in Livermore and the Temecula Valley UU Fellowship, because we had been a lay-led fellowship for 5 years. And I've got to say, in some cases, when we reached out to some of our UU neighbors, when we asked them if they needed help, it was sometimes met with suspicion. Not always, but sometimes, because we were breaking the paradigm of hyper-independence. For good reason, many congregations were struggling and focusing inward on their very survival. However, it brings to mind Pope Francis's last breath criticism of J.D. Vance's hierarchy of love, which places family first, followed by the community, the nation, and then if you have enough, the rest of the world. In response, the Pope wrote to his bishops saying that true love builds a fraternity open to all, without exception, and that Christian love is not a concentric, tiny expansion of interest little by little that extends to other persons and groups. Somehow, I think that is closer to how love at the center is defined by UUA. But what we got out of this outreach were some incredible gifts. We had multiple lay speakers trained through the 2 shared pulpit classes taught by Esther Wallace and Bill, many of whom spoke at UUCC. The list is too long to mention all the gifts we received from our multiple congregation collaborations, but during coffee hour you can ask and I'll list them all for you. So now let's conclude with 2 examples of the benefits of cross-pollination. Temecula Valley is a startup congregation in Riverside County. Bill and I met with their team over Zoom on many occasions, giving them advice. Mostly we're talking about what we did wrong and for them not to do it. We even flew down there at our own personal expense to deliver a service, and they shared back. Temecula had put together a substantial guide for right communication. That's non-violent communication between congregational members. We're people of faith, aren't we? We should be talking nicely to one another. It was an invaluable document that came out of a brand new covenanting community. The UU Church in Livermore is on the other end of the spectrum. They were founded in 1957. They had decided not to renew their minister's contract, and there was no replacement in sight. So they had been minister-led for decades. During that time, Esther and Bill taught a shared pulpit class with participants from Livermore and the UU Fellowship of Santa Cruz County, who were also suddenly leaderless after Reverend Russ retired. UUCC offered both congregations our advice on service structure, resources, and speakers. And when it came time to gather letters for our application to become a covenanting congregation, we were particularly touched by many letters of support, including a really lovely one from Reverend Tovis and Tricia Dell on behalf of UU San Mateo. 14 letters in all. And from the board president of Livermore, I quote, "The UU Church in Livermore was unexpectedly unable to call a minister for the current church year. UUCC is the UU community from whom we received the most support during this transitional year. And please remember, we weren't even a covenanting congregation with UUA at the time." That's how cross-pollination works at its best. It doesn't matter how large or how small any of us are, we all have great ideas to share. This sacred religion of ours is worth saving. And that takes work, it takes spark, and it takes a certain receptivity to the spark from others. We at UUCC look forward to continuing our creative relationships with other UU congregations, including our friends here. Namaste.